I never thought my family's Christmas tradition would be the moment everything fell apart. But looking back, all the signs were there. I just refused to see them. It was December 23rd, just 2 days before Christmas. The snow was falling gently outside the large bay windows of my parents' house, the home I grew up in, but somehow never felt fully welcome in. My sister Melissa had already arrived with her husband and their 2 perfect children. She was my father's obvious favorite, something everyone acknowledged with silent glances but never discussed openly. "Emma, get over here for the family photo," my mother called from the living room. Her voice carried that familiar edge of impatience she reserved just for me. I smoothed down my red sweater, the one I'd carefully selected to match the holiday theme, and walked over to where everyone was gathering around the Christmas tree. My father stood tall at the center, his arm wrapped proudly around Melissa's shoulder. My mother positioned herself on his other side, arranging everyone with practiced precision. "Emma, you can stand at the end there," she said, pointing to the far edge of the group. Always the afterthought, always the appendix to the real family. I swallowed the familiar ache and took my place, forcing a smile. "Everyone say Merry Christmas," my brother-in-law called as he set the timer on the camera and rushed to join the group. Just as the flash went off, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I normally wouldn't answer during a family photo, but something told me to check it. One of those inexplicable instincts that would later seem like fate. "Can you all hold that pose for one more?" my brother-in-law asked, fiddling with the camera settings. The lighting wasn't quite right. I stepped away and pulled out my phone. Dad's name flashed on the screen. I frowned in confusion. He was standing just a few feet away from me. Why would he be calling? I pressed answer and lifted the phone to my ear. "Your time with us is over," my father's voice said coldly through the speaker. The voice was unmistakably his, but when I looked up, his face was expressionless, eyes fixed ahead as if posing for another photo. My stomach dropped. "What?" I whispered into the phone, my voice barely audible. "You heard me," came the response. "We've decided it's time for you to move on. The trust fund ends today, the apartment too." My father's face remained unchanged, still staring ahead, his arm around my sister. He hadn't moved his lips. But I was hearing his voice through my phone, clear as day. Then I realized it was a recording. A pre-recorded message he'd arranged to be sent to me right in the middle of our family Christmas. Right when I was surrounded by everyone, unable to process or react in private. The whole room seemed to freeze. My mother's smile didn't falter, but her eyes flicked toward me with something like satisfaction. Melissa shifted slightly, but her perfect family portrait smile remained intact. "Is everything okay, Emma?" my brother-in-law asked, noticing I'd stepped away. "We're ready for the next photo." I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear as the message continued. "We've supported you for far too long. 26 years is enough. The monthly allowance ends today. Your credit cards will be deactivated by tomorrow morning. The lease on your apartment is paid until the end of January. That gives you 5 weeks to figure things out." My father's voice was businesslike, as if reading from a prepared statement. "This isn't up for discussion. Your mother and I have made our decision." I looked around the room, at my father still standing stoically by the tree, at my mother's tight smile, at my sister's picture-perfect family. And suddenly, years of subtle put-downs, of being sidelined, of never quite measuring up, it all crystallized into this moment. This wasn't a sudden decision. This was planned, calculated. They'd chosen Christmas, chosen this family gathering, to deliver the final blow. "Emma, we need you back in the photo," my mother called, her voice sugary but her eyes cold. "Everyone's waiting." I slipped my phone back into my pocket and rejoined the family portrait. The flash went off again, capturing my shell-shocked expression among their practiced smiles. No one mentioned the call. No one asked why my hands were shaking. It was as if they all knew, all except me. After the photos, I excused myself and went upstairs to the guest room where I was staying. I sat on the edge of the bed and replayed the voicemail, trying to make sense of it all. The trust fund my grandparents had set up, gone. The apartment my parents had helped secure, no longer mine. The monthly allowance that had supported me while I worked on my writing, cut off. I'd known things were tense. I'd known my parents were disappointed that I'd chosen to pursue writing instead of law school like they'd wanted. But this? A complete severance, delivered via voicemail during Christmas photos? I heard a soft knock on the door. When I opened it, I found my sister Melissa standing there, arms crossed over her designer sweater. "So," she said, leaning against the doorframe, "you finally got the call." "You knew?" I asked, the betrayal cutting deeper than I thought possible. Melissa shrugged, examining her manicured nails. "We all knew it was coming. Dad and Mom have been planning this for months. They wanted to do it face to face, but Dad thought this would be cleaner." "Cleaner?" I repeated, the word tasting bitter in my mouth. "Less dramatic. You know how you get, Emma." She gave me a look that was somewhere between pity and disdain. Always so emotional about everything. "They cut me off without warning in the middle of Christmas, Melissa. How exactly should I react?" She sighed as if dealing with a difficult child. "It's not without warning. You've had years of warnings. The dropped hints about getting a real job, Dad asking about your 5-year plan every Thanksgiving, Mom sending you those job listings from her friends. What did you think was going to happen?" I sank back down onto the bed, my mind racing. "So this whole Christmas invitation was to give you the news, yes," Melissa finished for me. "They thought it would be easier with everyone around. A buffer, you know?" "A buffer? Or an audience?" I asked quietly. Melissa had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable at that. "Look, it's not personal." I laughed then, a short, hollow sound. "Not personal?" They calculated exactly when to destroy my life, during a family photo on Christmas. And it's not personal. "That's exactly what I mean about being dramatic," Melissa said, shaking her head. "Your life isn't destroyed. You just need to grow up, finally. Get a real job like everyone else. Stop expecting Mom and Dad to bankroll your writing fantasies forever." I stared at my sister, my flesh and blood, and saw nothing but a stranger. Someone who had known this blow was coming and had said nothing. Who had watched me walk into this trap and felt no need to warn me. "I think you should go," I said quietly. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Emma," Melissa said, her voice softening slightly. "Just accept it gracefully. Show them you can be mature about this. Maybe if you..." "Get out," I said, my voice steadier now. Melissa sighed dramatically before turning to leave. At the doorway, she paused. "Dinner's at 7. Mom expects everyone there. Don't make a scene." After she left, I sat in the stifling silence of the guest room. The Christmas lights from the yard cast colored shadows across the ceiling. I could hear laughter from downstairs. My niece and nephew opening early presents. My parents and brother-in-law chatting as if nothing had happened. As if they hadn't just detonated a bomb in my life. I picked up my phone again, checking my bank accounts. The trust fund was already emptied, transferred out that morning before I'd even arrived. The credit cards were still working, but according to Dad's message, not for long. Everything I had relied on, everything I had built my life around, was being systematically dismantled while I sat in this perfect guest room in this perfect house, expected to come down for dinner and pretend everything was fine. I didn't go down for dinner that night. I couldn't bear to sit at that table, to pass the potatoes and make small talk while my entire future crumbled. Instead, I stayed in that guest room, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what to do next. Around 8, my mother knocked on the door. When I didn't answer, she let herself in anyway. Boundaries were never her strong suit. "You missed dinner," she said, her voice clipped. She stood just inside the doorway, arms crossed, looking at me lying on the bed still fully dressed. Everyone noticed. I'm sure you explained why, I replied, not bothering to sit up. Actually, no. She smoothed an invisible wrinkle from her cashmere sweater. Your father and I thought it would be best if we didn't discuss family business at the dinner table. It's vulgar. I laughed then, a sound so bitter it surprised even me. Vulgar? You orchestrate my financial execution during the family Christmas photo, and talking about it at dinner would be vulgar. This is exactly why we're doing this, Emma, she said, her lips pinched. This attitude, this entitlement. You've never had to work for anything in your life, and it shows. I've been working on my novel for the past 3 years, I said, finally sitting up to face her. Just because it's not the kind of work you respect. Writing little stories isn't work, she cut in dismissively. It's a hobby. One we've indulged for far too long, frankly. My little stories just got me an agent, I said quietly. I'd been saving this news, planning to share it at Christmas dinner as a surprise. A small victory I thought might finally make them proud. Last week, Barbara Coleman from Lighthouse Literary. She believes in my work. For a moment, something flickered across my mother's face. Surprise, maybe even a hint of pride. But it vanished quickly, replaced by her usual cool mask. Well, that's nice, dear. But agents don't pay the bills, do they? When you have a book deal with an actual advance, perhaps then we can revisit this conversation. You never even asked to read my manuscript, I said, the realization hitting me anew. Not once in 3 years. Your father and I aren't exactly your target audience, Emma. You don't even know who my target audience is. You have no idea what I write about. She sighed heavily, as if bearing an immense burden. The point is, it's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet. Your sister was financially independent by 23. She never needed the trust fund past college. Melissa married Richard straight out of school, and his family owns half of Boston, I pointed out. It's hardly the same situation. She made smart choices, my mother countered. She always knew what was expected of her. And there it was, the truth laid bare. Melissa had followed the script. I had dared to write my own. When did you decide? I asked, my voice softer now. When did you and Dad decide to cut me off? My mother's eyes shifted away, focusing on something just past my shoulder. It's been coming for a while, but we made the final decision when you turned down the position at your father's firm in September. That was an ultimatum? Work for Dad or lose everything? The pieces were falling into place. You never said that. We shouldn't have had to spell it out for you, Emma. You're a grown woman. Actions have consequences. I stared at her, really seeing her for perhaps the first time. This woman who had given birth to me but had always held back some essential part of herself. Some warmth that flowed freely to my sister, but never quite reached me. I'll be gone in the morning, I said finally. She looked almost disappointed, as if she'd been hoping for tears, for begging. For drama she could later recount to her friends as further evidence of my immaturity. That's not necessary. We're still family. You're welcome to stay through Christmas. No, I said firmly. I'm not. Don't be childish, Emma. Your father and I are trying to help you grow up. Running away at the first sign of difficulty doesn't suggest you're ready for adult life. I'm not running away, I replied, meeting her gaze steadily. I'm setting a boundary, something I should have done years ago. My mother's expression hardened. Well, if that's your choice. But don't expect your father to change his mind about the financial arrangements. Once he makes a decision, it's final. I'm not asking him to change his mind, I said. I'm telling you I won't be here in the morning. After she left, I sat in the quiet of that room, thinking about all the Christmases before this one. The subtle patterns I'd never fully acknowledged. always being asked to take the photos rather than being in them, always getting practical gifts while Melissa received the sentimental ones, always feeling like I was performing for approval that never quite came. I packed my bags methodically, taking only what I needed. As I was folding my clothes, I noticed something peeking out from under the bed, a small wrapped package with my name on it. I pulled it out, turning it over in my hands. The tag read, "To Emma, from Grandma." My grandmother had passed away last spring. This must have been something she'd left for me. With trembling fingers, I unwrapped it to find a worn leather journal and a small sealed envelope. Inside the envelope was a check, a very substantial one, and a note written in my grandmother's elegant script. "For when you're ready to fly on your own. I believe in your words, even if no one else does yet. No conditions, no expectations. Just love. Grandma." I clutched the journal to my chest, tears finally coming. My grandmother had always been different, asking about my stories, slipping me books by her favorite authors, telling me that creativity was a gift, not a frivolity. And somehow she'd known. She'd known I would need this lifeline. The check wouldn't last forever, but it would give me breathing room, time to finish my novel, to work with my agent, to build the life I wanted, not the one my parents had scripted for me. I finished packing and then sat down at the small desk in the corner of the guest room. I took out a piece of the fancy stationery my mother kept in every room and wrote a brief note. "I received your message clearly. Consider my time with this family over, as requested. Don't worry about the apartment or the credit cards. I won't be needing them. Thank you for making it so crystal clear where I stand and always have. Emma." I sealed it in an envelope and placed it on the perfectly made bed. Then I called a rideshare to pick me up, waiting by the window until I saw the headlights pulling into the long driveway. Everyone else was in the living room, watching the traditional Christmas movie marathon. No one noticed as I slipped down the back stairs with my suitcase and out through the kitchen door. As the car pulled away from the house, I watched the Christmas lights grow smaller in the rear window. The colored lights reflected off the fresh snow, making everything look magical and perfect from a distance. Just like my family. Beautiful from afar, cold up close. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Heading home for the holidays?" he asked cheerfully. I thought about that question for a moment, about what home really meant. "No," I said finally. "I'm heading away. But that's okay. Sometimes away is exactly where you need to go." He nodded, seeming to understand more than I'd said. "Where to then?" I gave him the address of my friend Sophia's apartment. She'd been telling me for years that I deserved better from my family. That their conditional love wasn't really love at all. I hadn't been ready to hear it then. I was now. As we drove through the snowy streets, I opened my grandmother's journal. On the first page, she'd written a quote. "The most courageous act is still to think for yourself. Aloud. Coco Chanel." I smiled through my tears. My grandmother had always seen me, really seen me, when no one else in the family did. And now, with her final gift, she was giving me permission to be fully myself, without apology. My phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. "Where are you? Mom is freaking out." I turned off my phone without responding and tucked it into my bag. For the first time in my life, I didn't owe them an explanation. I didn't need to manage their emotions or meet their expectations. The revelation felt terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you belong to," the driver said suddenly, breaking the silence. "Sometimes you gotta build your own." I met his eyes in the rearview mirror, surprised by the unexpected wisdom. "How did you know?" He shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "Christmas night, suitcase, tears. I've seen it before. Family stuff is always hardest during the holidays." I nodded, looking back out at the passing streets. "I think I'm going to be okay, though." "You know what?" he said, giving me a genuine smile in the mirror. "I think you are too." Sophia's apartment was everything my parents' house wasn't. Small, slightly messy, and absolutely genuine. When she opened the door and saw me standing there with my suitcase, tear tracks still visible on my face, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled me into a hug. "They finally did it, didn't they?" she whispered into my hair. I nodded against her shoulder, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Somehow she had known too. Was I the only one who hadn't seen this coming? "Come in," she said, taking my suitcase. "I've got leftover Chinese food, half a bottle of wine, and a couch that's surprisingly comfortable for something I found on the curb." I followed her inside, the warmth of her tiny apartment enveloping me like a blanket. Christmas lights were strung haphazardly across her living room window, casting a gentle glow over the mismatched furniture. It wasn't perfect like my parents' meticulous decorations, but it felt real. It felt like a place where people actually lived, not just posed for photos. "I'm sorry to crash your Christmas," I said, sinking onto the couch. I didn't know where else to go. Sophia handed me a glass of wine and sat cross-legged on the floor across from me. "Are you kidding? I've been telling you to walk away from those people for years. I'm just sorry it had to happen like this." I took a long sip of wine, letting the warmth spread through my chest. "They planned it, Soph. They waited until I was there, surrounded by everyone, and then my dad sent a pre-recorded message to my phone cutting me off completely while we were taking Christmas photos." Sophia's eyes widened. That's theatrical levels of cruelty, Em, even for your parents. And everyone knew. Melissa, Mom, probably even my brother-in-law. They all knew and just watched it happen. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hold in the hurt. 26 years of being the family disappointment, and I still didn't see it coming. "Because you always wanted to believe they'd change," Sophia said gently. "That one day they'd see you, really see you, and be proud of who you are, not who they wanted you to be." I thought about my grandmother's journal, still in my bag, about the quote she'd left me. "I got an agent," I said, the small victory feeling both enormous and insignificant in the shadow of everything else. "Last week, Barbara Coleman." Sophia's face lit up. "Emma, that's huge. Barbara Coleman is amazing. Didn't she represent that thriller that won the National Book Award last year?" I nodded, a small smile breaking through despite everything. "She said my manuscript has commercial appeal with literary merit. She thinks we can sell it." "I told you!" Sophia exclaimed, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "I knew your novel was something special. This is just the beginning." For a moment, I let myself feel the pride that should have come with this achievement. The joy that had been eclipsed by my family's rejection. "My grandmother left me something," I said, reaching for my bag. I showed her the journal and explained about the check. It's like she knew, like she was preparing a safety net for me all along. Sophia examined the journal with reverent hands. "Your grandma was the real deal, the only one in that family who ever got you." She looked up at me with fierce eyes. "This is your chance, Em, to build a life that's actually yours. No strings, no expectations, no constant disapproval." "I don't even know where to start," I admitted. Everything I had was tied to them in some way. "You start right here," Sophia said firmly. "You stay with me as long as you need to. You finish your book revisions with Barbara. You use your grandma's gift to give yourself the time you need. And you never, ever go back to people who could hurt you like that." That night, I slept on Sophia's couch under a pile of mismatched blankets. Despite everything, I slept better than I had in years. The weight of constantly trying to earn my family's approval had been lifted. Painfully, brutally, but lifted nonetheless. In the morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Sophia humming off-key in the kitchen. Christmas morning. For the first time in my life, I wouldn't be opening presents under my parents' tree. Wouldn't be sitting through the tense family breakfast. Wouldn't be forcing smiles for photos that never quite captured any real joy. "Merry Christmas, Rebel," Sophia said, handing me a steaming mug as I sat up on the couch. "I got you something." She handed me a small, hastily wrapped package. Inside was a keychain with a tiny typewriter charm. "I was going to give it to you next week when we had our usual post-Christmas sanity restoration dinner, but it seems appropriate now." I turned the little silver typewriter over in my palm. "It's perfect," I whispered. "It's just the beginning," she said, sitting beside me. "So what's the plan?" I took a deep breath, cradling the warm mug between my hands. "I need to find a job. Something to supplement Grandma's money while I finish the book revisions." "My coffee shop is hiring," Sophia offered. "The pay isn't amazing, but the schedule is flexible and you'd get free coffee. Perfect writer fuel." That would be incredible," I said, the possibilities starting to unfold before me. A simple job, a supportive friend, time to write, no more performing for approval that never came. "Consider it done," Sophia said with a decisive nod. "Now, what about your stuff at the apartment? Your dad said you have until the end of January, right?" I nodded, my stomach tightening at the thought of going back there. Most of it isn't worth keeping, honestly. Furniture my mother selected, clothes she thought I should wear. But my manuscripts, my books. "We'll go together," Sophia declared. "After New Year's, when they're all back to their regular lives. We'll get your important stuff, and you can leave the rest. Fresh start." My phone, still turned off in my bag, suddenly felt like a ticking bomb. They're probably wondering where I went. "Let them wonder," Sophia said fiercely. "They don't get to orchestrate your humiliation and then demand explanations when you refuse to play along." She was right. For once in my life, I didn't owe my family anything. Not explanations, not gratitude, not compliance. The realization was both terrifying and liberating. After breakfast, I finally turned on my phone. It immediately buzzed with notifications. 3 voicemails from my mother, 6 text messages from Melissa, and a single terse email from my father with the subject line, "Arrangements." I ignored the voicemails and texts, but curiosity compelled me to open the email. "Emma," it read, "your dramatic exit was unnecessary and immature. The apartment has been paid through January 31st, as stated. Your personal belongings must be removed by that date. Anything remaining will be disposed of. Your credit cards have been deactivated as of this morning. If you reconsider your career path and are ready to accept the position at the firm, we can discuss restoring your allowance. The choice, as always, is yours. Dad." The choice is yours. As if there had ever been any real choice in my family beyond complete surrender to their vision for my life. I showed the email to Sophia, who read it with increasing indignation. "The absolute gall," she seethed. "To frame this like you're the unreasonable one. Classic narcissist playbook." "I'm not going back," I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. "Not to the apartment paid for with their conditions. Not to their version of my life." I took a deep breath. "I think I need to get my own place. Something small, something I can afford on a coffee shop salary and Grandma's money." Sophia's face lit up. "My neighbor in 3B just moved out. It's tiny, like really tiny, but the rent is reasonable, and you'd be right upstairs." "You think the landlord would rent to me? I don't exactly have a stellar employment history." "Mr. Chen? Absolutely. He loves writers. His daughter is a poet, and I'll vouch for you." The pieces were falling into place, not according to my parents' careful script, but in a new pattern of my own making. For the first time, I was choosing my own path, not just reacting to their disapproval. That afternoon, Sophia and I walked to the small park near her apartment. The snow crunched beneath our boots, and children played with new Christmas toys while their parents watched from benches. A normal Christmas day, a day of joy and family and belonging. I should feel more devastated, I said, as we found an empty bench. Shouldn't I? They're my family. They just cut me out of their lives, and I'm sitting here making plans like it's just another day. Sophia considered this, her breath clouding in the cold air. I think maybe you've been grieving the family you never actually had for a long time, Em. The family that would love you unconditionally, that would support your dreams, that would see your worth. You've been mourning them for years. This is just the funeral. Her words hit me with unexpected force. She was right. The pain I felt wasn't fresh. It was old, worn smooth by years of disappointments and slights and conditional affection. What I'd lost yesterday wasn't a loving family, but the last of my illusions about them. I think I need to write, I said suddenly. The urge was overwhelming, like a physical need. Not my novel. Something else. Something true. About them? Sophia asked. I nodded. About all of it. About growing up always feeling slightly wrong. About trying to earn love that should have been freely given. About finding my own way despite them, not because of them. That sounds like a memoir, Sophia said, a slow smile spreading across her face. A really powerful one. Barbara said my fiction has an authentic emotional core, I mused. Maybe this is why. Maybe I've been trying to work through all of this in my stories without even realizing it. That night, back at Sophia's apartment, I opened my grandmother's journal. The pages were blank, waiting for words. My words. I took out a pen and began to write. I was taking Christmas photos when my phone rang. It was Dad, telling me my time with them was over. It was the moment everything changed. The moment I finally understood that the family I'd been trying to please my entire life had never seen me at all. This is the story of what came after, of how I found my voice, my strength, and eventually, my real family. The words flowed like water breaking through a dam, all the things I'd never said, the feelings I'd suppressed, the realizations that had been building for years. They poured onto the page in a torrent of truth. I wrote until my hand cramped, until the sky outside Sophia's window turned from evening gold to deep night blue. When I finally looked up, Sophia was asleep on the armchair across from me, a blanket pulled up to her chin. My friend, my real family, the person who had seen my worth when my own parents couldn't. I carefully closed the journal and set it aside. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Finding a job, securing the apartment, retrieving my things. But for the first time, those challenges felt like opportunities rather than obstacles. Each one a chance to define myself on my own terms, to build a life that reflected my values rather than someone else's expectations. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Melissa. Mom's threatening to come to your apartment. Where are you? I turned the phone face down without responding. They'd had 26 years of my attention, my effort, my desperate attempts to belong. They didn't get to demand more now that they'd thrown me away. Instead, I picked up my grandmother's journal again and turned to a fresh page. Dear Grandma, I wrote. You saw me when no one else did. You believed in me when everyone else was waiting for me to fail. I promise I won't waste the gift you've given me, not just the money, but the permission to be fully myself. I'm finally ready to fly. January arrived cold and clear, bringing with it a sense of new beginnings. I'd been at Sophia's for just over a week, sleeping on her couch, helping with rent, and working shifts at the coffee shop downstairs. The routine was simple but satisfying. Morning shifts serving coffee, afternoons working on revisions with Barbara, evenings writing in my grandmother's journal. For the first time in my life, I was fully responsible for myself, and the freedom was intoxicating. Mr. Chen, the building's owner, had indeed agreed to rent me the apartment in 3B. It was tiny, a studio with a kitchenette and a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in, but it was mine. I would move in on the 15th, once the previous tenant's lease officially ended. "We should celebrate," Sophia declared when I signed the rental agreement. "Your first apartment that doesn't come with parental strings attached." "I don't have furniture," I reminded her, "or dishes, or basically anything." She waved this off with characteristic optimism. "Details. We'll figure it out. Thrift stores, Facebook Marketplace, my cousin Miguel's storage unit. You'd be surprised what you can put together with a little creativity and very little money." I smiled, grateful once again for her unwavering support. "First, we need to get my things from the old apartment. The important stuff, at least." We'd been putting it off, both of us dreading the possibility of running into my parents there. But time was running out. I had exactly 3 weeks before the lease ended, and I needed my manuscripts, my research notes, my few treasured books. "Today," Sophia decided. "We'll go today. Rip off the Band-Aid. Your parents will both be at work, right?" I nodded. "Dad never leaves the firm before 7, and Mom has her charity board meeting on Thursdays." "Perfect. Operation Rescue Emma's Life commences at noon. I'll borrow Miguel's truck." The drive to my old apartment felt surreal. I hadn't been back since that Christmas Eve night when I'd fled my parents' house. The building looked exactly the same, an upscale high-rise in the part of town my mother considered acceptable, but not ostentatious. Everything about it had been chosen to reflect the image my parents wanted to project. Successful but not showy. Elegant but not extravagant. "You okay?" Sophia asked, as we pulled into the visitor parking. I took a deep breath. "Yeah, it's just strange. I lived here for 3 years, but it never really felt like home. More like an extension of my parents' house, a place I was allowed to stay as long as I behaved." The doorman recognized me and let us in without question. In the elevator, I felt my pulse quicken. What if my parents had changed the locks? What if they'd already started clearing out my things? But my key still worked, and when we opened the door, everything was exactly as I'd left it on Christmas Eve morning. The same tasteful furniture my mother had selected, the same artwork my father had approved, the same beige-on-beige color scheme that was sophisticated, but never bold. "Wow," Sophia said, looking around. "It's very them," I finished for her. "It's very them." We set to work quickly, focusing on the things that mattered. My laptop, my manuscripts, my research materials. The clothes I'd actually chosen for myself, rather than the ones my mother had pushed on me. The small collection of books that had meant enough for me to buy with my own money rather than accept from my parents' library. In my bedroom closet, I found a box I'd nearly forgotten, mementos from college, from the brief period when I'd lived in the dorms and experienced a taste of independence before my parents insisted I move into this apartment. Photos of friends, ticket stubs from concerts, a journal full of story ideas and dreams. "You look happy in these," Sophia observed, glancing at a photo of me with my freshman year roommates. I realized. That was before I switched from English to pre-law to make my parents happy, before I tried to become the daughter they wanted. "And look how well that worked out for everyone," Sophia said dryly. We were nearly finished when the apartment door opened. My heart stopped as my mother walked in, looking startled to find us there. "Emma," she said, composing herself quickly, "I wasn't expecting you." "Clearly," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm just getting my things." My mother's eyes moved to the boxes we'd packed, to Sophia standing protectively nearby and back to me. "I see. And where exactly are you staying? Your sister is quite concerned." "I'm fine," I said, deliberately not answering her actual question. "Sophia's been kind enough to help me." My mother's gaze flicked dismissively over Sophia before returning to me. This little tantrum has gone on long enough, don't you think? Your father and I were quite clear about the conditions of our continued support. If you're ready to be reasonable— I'm not having a tantrum, Mom, I interrupted, my voice calmer than I felt. I'm making a choice. The choice Dad so generously said was mine. She sighed, the sound heavy with practiced martyrdom. And what choice is that exactly? To throw away everything we've given you? To waste your education and potential waiting tables or whatever it is you think you're going to do? I got a job at a coffee shop, I said. I found an apartment I can afford. I'm working with my agent on revisions. I'm building a life that's mine, not yours. On a barista's salary? She scoffed. Be realistic, Emma. You'll come crawling back within a month when you realize how the real world works. Sophia stepped forward, eyes flashing. With all due respect, Mrs. Lancaster, the real world doesn't usually include trust funds and family connections. Emma's doing what most people do, working hard and following her dreams. My mother looked at Sophia as if she'd just noticed a particularly annoying insect. And you are? Sophia Chen, she replied, not backing down. Emma's friend. Her actual friend, not someone who pretends to care about her while secretly planning to cut her off during Christmas photos. I placed a hand on Sophia's arm. It's okay, I said quietly. Then to my mother. We're almost done here. We'll be gone in 20 minutes. And the furniture? Your father was quite clear that everything must be removed or it will be disposed of. Keep it, I said simply. It was never really mine anyway, just like this apartment, just like the life you and Dad tried to create for me. Something flickered across my mother's face then, a flash of genuine emotion breaking through her perfect mask. Hurt? Regret? It was gone too quickly to identify. Your sister's engagement party is next month, she said, changing tactics. She's expecting you to be there. I almost laughed at the absurdity. After what you all did, after the way you ended things, why would I come? Because it's what families do, Emma. They show up for important occasions, regardless of personal disagreements. I looked at this woman, my mother by birth if not by unconditional love, and felt a strange mix of pity and liberation. That's just it, Mom. We're not a real family. Real families don't orchestrate humiliations. They don't withhold love as a punishment. They don't use financial support as a weapon. That's quite enough, my mother said sharply. I won't stand here and be lectured on family by my own daughter. You don't have to, I replied, picking up a box of books. You can leave. Or we can. Either way, this conversation is over. To my surprise, she didn't argue further. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. Your grandmother wanted you to have this. I was going to mail it. But since you're here— She placed it on the kitchen counter and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. I hope you know what you're doing, Emma. I truly do. After she left, Sophia and I stood in silence for a long moment. Are you okay? Sophia finally asked. I nodded slowly. I think I am. That was actually easier than I expected. I moved to the counter and picked up the velvet box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small pendant, a pen crossed with a key. It was Grandma's, I said softly, running my finger over the pendant. She always wore it. She told me once that the pen represented her voice and the key represented her freedom. I never fully understood what she meant until now. Sophia smiled. Your grandma was one wise woman. We finished loading the truck in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. As I locked the apartment door for the final time, I felt not sadness, but a profound sense of release. I was leaving behind not just an apartment, but an entire life built on conditions and expectations that were never truly mine. "Ready?" Sophia asked as we got into the truck. "More than ready," I replied. The following weeks passed in a blur of activity. I moved into the tiny studio above Sophia's apartment, gradually filling it with secondhand furniture and treasures from thrift stores. Barbara sent revision notes on my manuscript, and I spent my evenings at my small desk by the window, refining and strengthening my novel. The coffee shop job was exactly what I needed. Structured enough to provide stability, but flexible enough to accommodate my writing schedule. The manager, an older woman named Diane, took a particular interest in me after learning I was a writer. "My late husband was a poet," she told me one afternoon as we closed the shop. "Never published a word while he was alive, but it gave him more joy than anything else. You keep writing, Emma. Some people never find their passion at all." January turned to February. My novel revisions were nearly complete, and Barbara was talking optimistically about submission timelines. My tiny apartment was beginning to feel like home, every item in it chosen by me, every corner reflecting my own taste rather than my mother's curated aesthetic. I continued writing in my grandmother's journal each night, the memoir flowing out of me with unexpected ease. It wasn't just about my family anymore. It was about finding my voice, about the journey from dependence to autonomy, about building a chosen family when your birth family fails you. The day of Melissa's engagement party arrived cold and clear. I hadn't responded to the formal invitation that had arrived at my new address. How they'd found it, I wasn't sure, but I suspected my mother had hired someone to track me down. I had no intention of attending, of stepping back into their world of appearances and judgments, even for my sister. But that morning, as I stood by my small window watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of gold and pink, I thought about my grandmother, about her quiet rebellion within the constraints of her generation, about how she had stayed true to herself without burning all her bridges. I picked up my phone and, after a moment's hesitation, texted Melissa. "Congratulations on your engagement. I won't be at the party, but I wish you happiness." Her response came almost immediately. "I understand. Thank you. Can we meet sometime? Just us?" I stared at those words for a long time, weighing the risk against the potential reward. Melissa had been complicit in my parents' plan, had watched it unfold without warning me, but she was also my sister, the only one who had shared my childhood, who might understand the complex tangle of love and hurt that bound me to our parents. "Coffee next week?" I texted back. "My treat." "I'd like that," she replied. I put down my phone and picked up my grandmother's necklace, fastening it around my neck. The pen and key rested just above my heart, a reminder of the legacy she had left me. Not just financial support, but the courage to write my own story. That evening, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop to find an email from Barbara. "Great news," the subject line read. I clicked it open, my heart racing. "Emma," it began, "I've just heard from Riverside Press. They want to make an offer on your novel. It's a good one, significant advance, 2-book deal. Call me first thing tomorrow so we can discuss strategy. This is just the beginning. You've earned this. Barbara." I read the email 3 times, barely able to comprehend what it meant. A book deal. A real substantial book deal with a respected publisher. The dream I'd been working toward while my parents dismissed my writing as a hobby, as something to indulge until I was ready to be serious about my future. My hands shaking, I reached for my phone, then paused. A month ago, my first instinct would have been to call my parents, to finally prove my worth to them, to show them they'd been wrong about me all along. Now, I realized, their approval was no longer what I was seeking. This victory was mine alone, earned through hard work, resilience, and the courage to choose my own path. Instead, I called Sophia. "They want my book," I said when she answered, my voice breaking with joy. "Riverside Press wants to publish my novel. 2-book deal. Substantial advance." Her shriek of excitement was everything I needed. "I'm coming up," she declared. "We need to celebrate. I have questionable champagne and unquestionable friendship to offer." Later, as Sophia and I sat on my small balcony sharing cheap champagne under the stars, I felt a sense of peace I'd never known before. Not everything was resolved. My relationship with my family might never be truly healed. My future was still uncertain in many ways. But for the first time, I was standing firmly in my own truth. "To new beginnings," Sophia said, raising her glass. "To writing my own story," I added. As our glasses clinked under the vast night sky, I thought about that moment during the Christmas photos when my phone had buzzed with my father's message. The moment everything had changed. The moment that had seemed like an ending, but had actually been the beginning of something far more valuable than anything my parents could have given me. The beginning of a life that was authentically, unapologetically mine.